Hi there. As learning designers, instructional designers, content creators, learning and development consultants, we are in a very different place. We're in a place where our industry is being flipped upside down. Learning, development, education skills are in a very different place and probably one of the most disruptive sectors when it comes to artificial intelligence. So, today I'm going to share with you my thinking around AI in the learning design process on behalf of World of Learning. This record is available for you. I will also be sharing this live at the event on 3rd of February in Olympia and hope to see some of you then. But if not, enjoy the next 20 minutes. Okay, so my name's Erica Farmer. I'm a professional speaker, trainer, and author in all things artificial intelligence for HR and learning and development. I've got a background of 25 years corporate L&D in some of the UK's largest brands, such as British Gas, LV, Specsavers, and Virgin. And I've been involved in artificial intelligence in our sector since around 2022. I was lucky enough to land a TEDx, and I wrote my TEDx around having a digital first mindset in education, which talked a lot about personalization for learners, learning technology, machine learning, and the blockchain. And lo and behold, OpenAI bought ChatGPT to market the following month. And it's like the stars aligned because I remember turning around to my business partner, Hayley Bird, and saying to Hayley, we really need to kind of up our game in AI. This is going to be massive for learning development and education. And Hayley said to me, well, what do we know about AI other than the little bits that we've started to learn? And I said, well, not a huge amount, but let's start a podcast and teach ourselves. And that's exactly what we did. We started AI for the Average Joe, which is a free podcast show available on YouTube and our website. And over 4 seasons, we interviewed some real expert guests, people using AI for lots of different ways, designing learning, HR, coaching, setting up a business, conservation, writing a book, you name it, we've interviewed those guests. So starting to learn about AI, particularly in learning and learning design, was core as part of this. And it enabled us to keep up with the trends and the changes that we've seen in the 3 years um, following this as well. I work with clients to really get their people excited about AI and future skills. I spend a lot of time professionally speaking and running workshops, and I've got my new book, AI for People Professionals, coming out in May this year as well. What we do is really practical, really hands-on, enabling you to take the learning that either we cover in talks or workshops or content and put it into practice straight away. And I'm hoping today's session will enable you to do that as well. If we're not connected on LinkedIn already, please drop me a note and connect in with me because I share all sorts of free resources in this space. So, let's just take a moment to understand where we are in the L&D sector. We're in that space between being a traditional learning designer, whether that's instructional design, whether that's e-learning design, a live workshop, virtual design, whatever that looks like, and becoming an AI collaborator. Now, what does that mean? Is my role going to change? Am I going to lose my job? I can imagine all of these questions are going around some people's minds. And that's why becoming an AI collaborator is so important because our roles are going to elevate from drafting a straw man or a wireframe regarding a training or learning session or intervention or writing some learning objectives to actually partnering with AI to support you in some of that drafting. And you might hear me say AI drafts human crafts. And that's really the golden thread of this talk is working and collaborating with AI to do some of the legwork for you and to bring some new thinking and research, but also collaborating as if it's a digital colleague, as if it's another learning designer working with you and bouncing those ideas and coming up with new ways of learning, new methodologies, new modalities, new ways of getting people excited, but more importantly, enabling them to transfer learning into the workplace, recreating those skills and into the flow of work. You probably hear all these things all the time, but AI is perfectly set up as a digital colleague to help us do this. So, what do we need right now? We need that experimental mindset to innovate, to try, to change, to do different things. But we need to do it in an ethical, safe way. If you're working in organizations or you're a freelancer, you've probably got your clients for your organizations, your HR team, your stakeholders looking to you to be an expert in this area. And what I mean by an expert is not an expert prompt engineer, for example, but an expert in how to use artificial intelligence to make your life easier, to be more productive, but more importantly, to be happier in what you do, to have great satisfaction, to be motivated to do more of the job that you love doing. This is what I call the AI dividend, by the way. And yes, be more productive, etc. But it's not about the hard KPIs. It's about human and machine relationship. It's about collaboration. And I think this slide here really, certainly for me, emphasizes that. So we are becoming the guardian of quality when it comes to partnering with AI. You've probably heard the phrase work slop, which was coined by the Harvard Business Review in around November last year, 25. And work slop is about people creating and churning out this volume content, whether it's written, whether it's multimedia, visual, whatever it might be, and not quality checking, not using critical thinking skills, and just submitting it, whether that's a post on social media or a written report or a piece of work to their manager. And actually, the quality of that work is not good enough, that work slop. So we need to become AI guardians of quality in our roles when it comes to taking the next step of quality in our learning design journey. And that, of course, leads to driver of impact. Speak to any stakeholder that commissions learning to you or to your L&D business partner, to an L&D manager, head of, whoever it is that's consulting with stakeholders. They're not looking for a training course. They're not looking for a management course. They're not looking for slides. They're not looking for e-learning. They're looking for return on investment. They're looking for impact. What is the problem that they're looking to solve? That's what we really need to understand. And I think AI is really starting to shine a light on that as well. AI drafts, human crafts. I think it's such a good phraseology. I heard that initially on LinkedIn a few weeks ago. I'll talk a little bit more about Dr. Philippa Hardman, who's the thought leader that I like to follow when it comes to AI, particularly in learning design. But I think it's a nice way of us reminding that we have the one-upmanship. We are the people in control. We are accountable for the quality of the work that we submit and we create as part of a project or a learning program or whatever that looks like. AI enables us to do it, but we are still accountable for that, and we must never forget that. So, my practical tips for you right here, right now, where we're 5-10 minutes into this session, and I've already got some practical tips for you. Start with the problem, don't start with the prompt. Again, if you're not asking the core questions around what are the problems that we're looking to solve, what kind of metrics are you looking to move? What's the purpose of this learning intervention? Is learning the right thing? That's where we've got to be starting the conversation, not around prompting and creating slide decks or e-learning or learning objectives, for example. Once you get the answers to those questions, you can then put that into your AI tool and start to analyze it and have AI consult with you to start understanding what that big picture might look like. That's when you start to build your great prompts and partner with AI. But you've got to do the human to human stuff first. Teach your AI great pedagogy. Teach it your learning principles. Teach it how you design. Create a specific project, say in ChatGPT if you're using that, and train it in regards to perhaps previous pieces of work. So what are your top 5 ways that you design learning that you need the AI to take into account? These are your preferences, because if you teach the AI to anticipate your needs, next time it will make things easier, or you will get a better output on quality in how you want to work and the output of what you're looking for. So spend that time, almost like coaching. Think about, you've got maybe an intern or apprentice or a junior team member working with you. Give the AI the rules, give it the core methodology of what you're doing, and save yourself a huge amount of time on iteration and quality checking going forwards. With that, use a reusable prompt library and share that prompt library with fellow L&Ders, whether that's on SharePoint, whether that's a document, however you want to do it. Don't sit and hold on to prompts. In Copilot, for example, you can share with certain other job families in HR and L&D through Teams, for example. So don't be afraid to share good output. I know some people at the moment particularly struggle with using spreadsheets in AI. You've got to be quite specific, got to have a lot of detail in terms of what you're looking for. So if you've got a great prompt for that, share that with your team. Remember to create learning that both personalizes and localizes. So what I mean by that is build that into your prompt. Make sure that learners can put their own journey and way of what they need out of the learning in your prompts. So it might be that you put something in regards to the job family. So build different versions for different job families or geographies or locations or parts of the business, whatever it might be. Put some personas of some typical users of your learning into your AI as part of the training methodology so it understands that as well. And again, local rules, local language, local geographies, local customs. Make sure you build that into it as well, because what we know in the UK is very different in parts of Asia, parts of America, parts of South America. People have different expectations in regards to engaging with learning, and we need to recognize that. And we now have a tool in artificial intelligence that can do that for us. And again, your auditing, your quality checking is probably one of the most important parts of your design methodology when working with AI, whether that's auditing for bias and bias language and running a specific prompt for that, whether it's picking up the right tone of voice or the right language or the way that the copy and the text is written in your learning and your trainer notes, whatever it might be. Make sure you're running a prompt for that as well. Your prompting shouldn't just be for your learning objectives or creating a slide deck. You should be prompting for each part of your learning design. You should have specific prompts that check the quality of each part of it. And your final checking for bias language, checking for tone of voice, appropriateness, the right language, that is just as important because that affects engagement. So I've talked about prompting quite a lot, and we probably know about prompting by now, but I'm going to share with you my prompt framework. And a prompt is the instruction that you give a large language model, an AI tool like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, or Copilot. As a minimum, you should be using a three-part prompt, which is the persona that you give the AI, the considerations and the context that you want it to have, and that should be the biggest part of your prompt. And of course, being really super clear on the outcome of that as well. And people struggle with that because sometimes we just assume that the AI can read our mind, could read between the lines, can guess it. But again, just think about working with a junior team member, an intern, somebody like that. It's really important to be clear and directive with what you're looking for. So persona, let's start with that. The persona is the person, the personality, the job role, the area of function that you want it to act as. So for us, for example, act as a learning designer in whatever the industry or sector that you work in, specifically focusing on whatever the tools and modality that you use, e-learning, virtual instructor-led training, speaking, facilitation, gamification, whatever it might be. That's your first part of your prompt, the persona. And the reason that we tell it to be a certain persona is these large language models are trained on billions and billions of pieces of data, and they're constantly evolving and they're constantly growing and learning. So the more context and information you can give it, going macro to micro, the better outcome that you are going to get. And persona is the start of that. Act as a instructional designer, act as a learning consultant, whatever that might be. And then the big piece, considerations and context. This is thinking about what the large language model should focus on and should roll out. So that could be legislation, geography, types of data, information, products, services, whatever it is that you want it to consider to build the output or the outcome that you're looking for. So, if the outcome, for example, is a set of learning objectives or a document to share with stakeholders around the impact of what the learning will be and how you're going to build it, you've got to be really clear in terms of exactly what it is that you want it to look at. Is there information that's out of date in your company SharePoint, for example, that you want it to ignore? Is there certain reports or pieces of information or research that you want it to major on? You've got to be really clear and give it links to websites, for example, to do that. Don't just assume that it can trawl the internet and pick up exactly what you want. And then the outcome. What is it exactly that you're looking to achieve? Is it those learning objectives? Is it a communications and engagement document? Is it a PowerPoint slide? Is it a piece of research on learning science? Whatever it might be, it's important for you to be really clear in your prompts. And we're going to look at some prompts in a minute. But I want you to take away from today's session that a prompt has to be specific. It has to contain the information that you want it to really consider. And it has to be clear and concise in regards to the output. What language? What format? What does it need to cover? What does it need to ignore? Why does it need to do this? What's the importance of it? What's the company for? The sector, the geography, whatever you think that information needs to be. And if you're unsure, think about you delegating to that apprentice or that intern. If you're asking a junior team member to go away and create some learning objectives on something, that's pretty much the instruction that you would give it. You would give that person the context, the information, the outcome, exactly what you're looking for them to do. And then typically you would ask them a question like this. I call it a killer question. What else do you need to know to complete this task to its best? You put that into the AI tool after you've put your prompt in, because you're allowing the AI to hold you accountable in the quality of the instruction and the prompt and the information that you've given it. And you would typically do that with a human. You would ask them something like, what else do you need to know? Or do you have all the information that you need? What else do you need from me to go and complete this task? Think of it in the same way. And the great thing about this is you'll see the AI tool come back to you with a bunch of questions that you've probably assumed that it's going to pick up. So to get a better quality of output with your learning design, always put a killer question in. This is a really nice practical piece of advice that works really well. So here you go. Here's some examples of that. Okay. So for example, a prompt, a persona would be something like you are an instructional designer in the financial services industry working with frontline managers who are under time constraints, managing teams of 25 call center agents. And I want you to design a short learning experience about resilience. Now, be really clear on what you focus on, the specific challenge. Frontline managers under pressure, micro learning format. So don't just say design a learning experience about resilience. Be clear, who's it for? What kind of formats? Why do they need it? That's the important piece there. So again, just some clear information in regards to what that needs to look like. You can also ask it to give you 3 creative variations of the learning journey. Give yourself some creative options: video, simulation, scenario-based learning. You can weigh up the pros and cons and the types of modality based on the information that the AI gives you. And then you can use that information for other audiences, rewrite it for entry-level employees in healthcare, for example, or another sector that you might be working with, and then localize it for the UK market. So again, this is that constant iteration, that constant use. And my prompts here are very high level. I'd encourage you to put a lot of information into it. But it's important to recognize that you need to work with your AI tool and iterate it. It's not just a one and done. The people that I see who fall out of love with AI very quickly and unfortunately don't benefit from it as quickly as others do is they put a one sentence into the tool and expect it to do all the work. And it doesn't work like this. You have to iterate, you have to work with it, you have to partner with it, you have to really get into what it needs and why it needs and do the thinking and not just outsource your thinking to AI. We talked about this earlier. Asking it to critique itself for things like accuracy, bias, and tone of voice is really important. So once you have your learning objectives or your report or your communication or whatever it might be, get it to audit itself, get it to rework and understand and make sure that there isn't biased language in there, for example. Because if you think about the training data that's created and that large language models learn from, it's created by the human race, and the human race inherently is biased, whether that's information from the internet, information from previous prompts and working with large language models, training data from your organization. We are inherently biased, whether we realize it or not. And most of us have bias within us based on our upbringing and how we've been treated. So it's really important that we double check for that and get the LLM to audit its own work in that space. That continuous improvement loop, that's what we're looking for. So I mentioned Dr. Philippa Hardman earlier. If you don't follow Philippa on LinkedIn, then there's the top of her LinkedIn profile. I'd recommend that you do. So I often get asked, who are the thought leaders that I follow to get my intelligence and my inspiration? And I'd say Philippa Hardman is up there with the best. She's very kindly given me permission to share some of her prompts in this session. If you don't follow her on LinkedIn, again, follow me and then follow Philippa. Lots of great free resources in regards to particularly AI and learning design. So this was one of the prompts that Philippa shared on LinkedIn in January this year. And I wanted to share it because it really brings to life some of the stuff that I've been talking about in this session today. And she's saying about, for analysis, it's not just about summarizing data, it's about pushing the AI to the next limit. So you can see there, she's used the principles that I talked about in the prompt framework. I'm an instructional designer working on whatever your problem is. Remember, you asked the question, what is the problem we're looking to solve? And you'll see that I've uploaded the descriptions and KPIs and some quotes from stakeholders as part of the consultation. I want you to act as a performance consultant, group into root causes of the problem, skill, knowledge, tools, processes, incentives, environment, management, culture, flag what training can't fix and why, and then propose 3 to 5 non-training actions and 3 to 5 training actions. What a great piece of information that's going to give you to go back to stakeholders to say, that old chestnut, this isn't a training challenge. We won't see the change that you're looking for if we continue down this path, and this is the reason why. So there's some intelligence there for you to use with the prompt. I love this. I think it's a great way of doing it. And also there'll be some data and some information and some analysis there for you to go and tell the story and share that with your learning consultant, learning partner, stakeholder, whoever it might be, rather than just rolling over and designing the training, knowing that it's not going to make a difference, or being a bit too scared to go and have that conversation. I think that's a great one. Here's the next one. Learning design. I've talked about creating learning objectives, but Philippa says it's not just about creating learning objectives. So the prompt, act as an evidence-informed instructional designer. The context is put your problem in there as you would, the business outcome that you're looking for, any constraints in regards to budget, tech, staffing, etc., scalability. Recommend 2 instructional strategies that fit with the learner and the problem, with the pros and cons. Using AI as a decision maker, pros and cons, devil's advocate, that kind of stuff is a really good way to partner with it. For the top strategy, suggest 2 different modes of trade-offs and include a 3 to 5 step outline. So you can see Philippa's really, really clear and directional in the outcome that she's looking for with these prompts. And they're not war and peace, they're not massive amounts of tech, but they're really clear in terms of exact outcome that you're looking for. And again, we get a lot of criticism in L&D around creating new content every time. And we know we can be more clever with AI around just churning out work slop and content and whatever that needs to be. So here's another good one. Act as an instructional script writer. Here's the objective of the learning. Here's the format of the video, perhaps, that you're looking for. Here's the audience, the people that it's aimed at. And write me a script in plain language, 1 to 2 relevant examples, clear signposting, reflection moment, and a behavioural call to action. Again, a really nice, clear prompt. Caveat that with it does depend on the quality of the information, the quality of that initial consultation and conversation you've had with your stakeholders. That's where the relevance comes in and the core thinking. But this is where AI can really start to structure your responses, your engagement, your outcomes, your challenges to your stakeholder, which could be really data heavy and important in regards to that fact based rather than just the opinion based. I've been there trying to talk stakeholders out of training that isn't going to make a difference. But this now gives us a really clear, objective way in having those conversations and dealing with that. So let me go back to some practical key points that I want you to take away from that part of the session. An AI cannot fix a fuzzy brief. You have to do the work up front to understand what the problem is that you're trying to solve. It's not going to magically create something with a magic wand if you've not done the work. You've got to be clear on that problem. You've got to have the conversations with stakeholders. Be disciplined with your prompting, give it the right information, use a framework and share best practice with a prompt library. If you're unsure, go back to the prompts that we've shared in today's session. Be really clear in regards to the outcome that you're looking for. Don't feel like you're being rude or over directive. Be super clear in terms of what that needs to look like. And remember, we talked about training your AI up front in regards to your methodology, your pedagogy, your design principles. You can build all of that into that. So that's going to, again, give you more quality in the outcome that you're looking for and looking to achieve. And don't forget the killer question. What other information do you need to complete this task to its best? Teach those principles. Spend the time up front. Invest. Do the thinking. What does it look like if you were new and fresh to this role, but you had access to all the information? What would you need? What does good learning design look like? What do your preferences look like? What does your stakeholder or organization or client preferences look like? All of that is really important to do that thinking and teaching up front. It's going to save you time in the long term. It's going to increase your quality. It's going to make sure you elevate to that guardian of quality that I talked about earlier. So we're coming to the end of the session. I just want to give you some more resources for you to go away. Think about what we've done today. Put this stuff into practice. And if you want to learn more, we have the AI for the Average Joe podcast show, which is available free of charge to you on YouTube or quantumrise.co.uk. We have practical examples of using AI tools and some real expert guests in our sector and beyond who can share some brilliant ideas with you and give you even more inspiration. And of course, my book comes out in May this year. You can pre-order it on Amazon or koganpage.co.uk. Real practical prompts, use cases, tips, tricks, self-assessment when it comes to AI, getting you to elevate your thinking and understanding what that looks like from a stakeholder position, a HR position, focusing on L&D skills, instructional design and coaching as well. Thank you so much for listening to this pre-record of my session for World of Learning in Olympia on the 3rd of February. Do come and say hello if we cross paths. Do connect with me on LinkedIn and good luck with your instructional design. Thanks so much.